Hi, I'm Derek Alpin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be at this time. I'm the Managing Director for China, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce this episode of RBC TV, where today we're going to talk about how you as sellers can make the best of the China market and your appointments with Chinese tour operators and agents at RBC 2016 in Montreal. One of the questions I'm asked is, what are the three key things that sellers from Canada need to know about the China market? The good news in 2016 is that if all the route approvals go through the China Civil Aviation Authority and Transport Canada, we will see a 40% increase in capacity in 2016, and we will increase the number of gateways from China to Canada to 11. Currently we have 5, we're now going up to 11. I'll just read to you the new gateway cities and the old gateway cities so you can have some idea where we're going to see this traffic coming from in China in 2016 and beyond. Obviously currently we have Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Chengdu, Shenyang, and kind of Kunming as an add-on to the Shanghai flight. But in 2016 we're going to see flights from Chongqing, Xiamen, Tianjin, Qingdao and Hangzhou. And a lot of those areas are in southern China, where you are going to see a significant increase in group traffic. So from 2015, where we had a saturation of capacity, tour operators and travel agents were not always able to get seats to travel to Canada, so chose other destinations. This year, with a 40% capacity increase, we do not see that to be a major issue. You can look at the market really into 3 segments. You've got the fastest growing market segment, which is FIT. This mainly comes from the tier 1 cities of Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou. Very interested in exploring other parts of Canada, very interested in hiring a car or a recreational vehicle and looking at areas away from the main tourism icons in the interior of BC and Alberta, and of course other areas in Ontario, Quebec, and other regions, territories and provinces of Canada as well. In addition to the FIT, as I've mentioned, particularly from those southern Chinese cities, you will see a major increase in group traffic. We have been, myself and my travel trade manager, Vanessa Wu, have been visiting these agents over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's pretty apparent that most of the business coming out of those southern cities will be very heavily group. Likely to be going to the main tourism icon areas in Beijing, in BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. In addition to FIT and group travel, MICE, or the I in MICE, incentive travel, is a very strong growing segment in China. It has been for some time, but again we are seeing significant growth in interest and bookings for incentive travel, but again particularly into the gateway cities in Canada, which are now of course Vancouver, Calgary coming up in June, Montreal and Toronto. So FIT, group and MICE, or the I in MICE, incentive travel, are the three key market segments in this market. Yeah, another question that's often asked is, as far as the buyers are concerned, what do they think is a good or a bad appointment when they come to RBC and sit down with you for 12 minutes or so? I think the key thing is that if you're meeting with a Chinese agent, you must have a strong knowledge not only of your product, your attraction or your hotel, but also the area and the region where you are situated. That is very important. It would be useful if you could demonstrate to the Chinese travel agent that you have actually been to China before and therefore have an understanding of the market and the way that business is done here in China. Another very useful tip is that if you have Chinese employees in your company, use them for the meetings with the Chinese agents. We do our best to ensure that all the travel agents coming from China are very fluent in English. But there are some last-minute changes. Some agents' English is not quite as good as we would like. So if you do have a Chinese speaker at your booth, use them, and again, much easier to communicate with the agents in their own language. The last point is follow-up. A 12-minute appointment at RVC will not get you $1 million worth of business overnight. You need to follow up in a number of ways. You can have appointments with really serious agents and tour operators outside the meeting agenda. Have a coffee with them, take them out for dinner. You can follow up obviously through email, but my advice, because WeChat, which is the equivalent of Twitter in China, is so popular and used by over 800 million people here, and including every travel agent and every tour operator, open a WeChat account and you can talk to the agent on a regular basis, very easy. So follow up, follow up, follow up. The key messages to sellers when you're dealing in the China market. The building of good relationships with Chinese business people is most important. Yeah, there is such strong interest in Canada, and this is why ourselves and you as well, plus the agents and tour operators, are absolutely over the moon of all this additional capacity and additional routes and additional cities in China and regions that are being opened up. We are bringing the biggest delegation, I believe, of any market to RVC. We have around 80 participants in 2016, all of which will be doing pre and post fam tours, and they are really interested in not only the main tourism icons, obviously, but also all the other regions and provinces and territories in Canada. You know, I'm very pleased to say that out of 13 provinces and territories, 11 now invest in the China market, which again shows that interest in Canada for obtaining solid China business. What they're looking for, again, as a mix of agents, we've got FIT people who specialize in independent travel, some that specialize in MICE, some that specialize in group, some that do all three, a mix of wholesalers and retailers, all very knowledgeable, all have, as I said, a strong interest in Canada, and I don't think anybody who has an appointment with a Chinese agent will be disappointed at the results of those meetings. Again, another question is, from the seller's viewpoint, is what exactly are Chinese agents looking for, and what are they looking to buy when they come to RVC? They're certainly going to be buying more because of the strong interest in Canada. You will see the group market will definitely be, the group travel agents specializing in groups will definitely be looking very closely at the four big key tourism provinces, if you wish to call them that, and the key tourism icons. Obviously Vancouver, Vancouver Island, Whistler, moving into the Rockies, the Banff-Jasper corridor obviously is very well known in China now. Moving across the country to Ontario, obviously Niagara Falls, a key Canadian tourism icon, Toronto, and obviously the capital city of Ottawa is always of interest to visitors to Canada for the first time, and then obviously moving into Quebec, the French, the interest in the French-speaking part of Canada, particularly Montreal and of course Quebec City. So you will see a strong interest from the group travel agents, or those agents who are looking to send a large group contingents to Canada of those four key provinces. As far as the independent traveler is concerned, they are looking again at those four main provinces, but of course looking more at other experiences away from the main cities and away from the main tourism icons. They probably want to go into the Okanagan or the Algonquin and other areas which are easily accessible by car. Self-drive And recreational vehicle demand is now very high in China for the FIT group, which is obviously the easiest and the greatest way to explore our whole signature experiences that they can see. They are also the FIT market as well, obviously looking at the other provinces and territories. We're seeing strong demand and strong interest in Yukon, in the Northwest Territories, Manitoba, and also Atlantic Canada. The Atlantic Canada, I suppose, is really well geared up to handle independent travelers, particularly with the small B&Bs and the small boutique hotels, and a great self-drive destination. So for the FIT market, all across Canada will be of interest to them. The incentive travel market tends to want to go to the main gateway cities for their main meeting, which would be Vancouver, Montreal, now Calgary and Toronto, where from those cities they can do 6 or 7 days touring to experiences and activities that are within easy reach of their hotel in the main city. And that's pretty much it, a mix of everything. You'll see 80 agents, and I'm sure you'll be happy with the results from your meetings. Another question, how do sellers get the best from their appointments at RVC with Chinese buyers? As I mentioned previously, you really must have a strong understanding of your own product, not only your own product, but the region where you operate. They're very interested not only in your hotel or your attraction, but what else is there to do there. So that's very, very important. I mentioned earlier a Chinese speaker, very useful, and I would say beginning to become essential. If you're going to hire new staff, why not hire a Chinese speaker who can then communicate with the Chinese tour operator in what is now the largest, fastest growing market that Destination Canada now has a presence. Chinese collateral, if you're using print, it must be written in Chinese. And if you have any videos that you're showing, if you don't have a Chinese voiceover, you should certainly have Chinese subtitles. English print and English speaking videos only are not particularly attractive to the Chinese travel agent. So again, it shows that you understand and have an interest in China. And the other big requirement is really pretty much, as I said in the previous answers to these questions, is follow-up. China, you need to have a strong business relationship with the people that you are working with. Tour operators want to know you, you want to know them, and this relationship building can only really be accomplished by a strong follow-up, either through coming to the market on a sales mission with your PMO, for example, joining Destination Canada at Showcase Asia in October, which this year is in Nanjing. And in fact, the registration will open at RVC on the 25th of April. We would expect something like 120 seller organizations would want to come, and I'd strongly urge you really to register as soon as possible to avoid disappointment. So this follow-up through coming into the market, through email, through WeChat, the Chinese Twitter, all very, very important. Build up those relationships and you will not be disappointed. It does take time. You're not suddenly going to get a couple of $1 million worth of business just like that. Number of your seller colleagues can testify to that sometimes they've spent 3, 4, 5 years developing China business, but they are now reaping the rewards of this fastest growing market in the world.